what we're going to continue to see is really what we saw over the past 2 weeks at the conventions. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats are trying to paint themselves as sort of a return to normalcy, as sort of people that can pull us back into calm waters. And what I mean by that is, they talk seriously about COVID-19 and the need to get the situation under control. They are addressing the racial unrest and the civil unrest that's going on across America. They're talking about the shooting of Jacob Blake and other Black Americans across the country, something that wasn't really touched on much. Now, at the same time, I think President Trump and the Republicans will continue to highlight all of the good that was happening, particularly with the economy, in their view, prior to the virus, and sort of paint themselves as the law and order presidency and talking about sort of keeping the good before the virus going. And so you really have, I think what it boils down to is you really have this stark choice over how you perceive your worldview right now. Is the country continuing to head in the right direction, or are we off on the wrong track? And we know that a vast majority of Americans think that the country is headed in the wrong direction, with the exception right now of Republicans.
I expect to see Donald Trump continue to carry this kind of dueling message, the first message of lawlessness and chaos in the streets and the abolition of the suburbs, and along with this message of the criminal justice president, the president that signed the First Step Act, the president that is appealing to the number one concern of men of color. I was in focus groups just last night with Black voters who were able to list to me all of the ways that Donald Trump has positively impacted their communities. They listed the First Step Act. They listed HBCU investments. They listed lowest unemployment rates in the Black community. When I asked them what Joe Biden has done for their community, there was no list. They did not have a response. And the problem with that is not that Joe Biden doesn't have a response. I think Joe Biden has done incredible things in the community. I think he has a complicated record, but I think he has a great answer for that record and how he's grown and learned from that record. The problem here is a delivery problem, that Donald Trump is targeting these voters with a very dedicated message, with very dedicated digital dollars, and Democrats are simply not breaking through. And so over the next 2 months, I expect to see Democrats getting very creative about how they carry their message to the voters that are going to determine the outcome of this election.
Yeah, and I expect to see Joe Biden starting to hit the campaign trail a little bit more, whatever that looks like during a pandemic. I think he's going back out for his first events again in the coming days. And that's one thing where, the president has attacked Joe Biden on. That's one thing where I think we've kind of seen a difference in the candidates. The president has continued to hold rallies, to hold campaign events, to travel across the country, whereas Joe Biden, citing COVID-19, has tried to hold a lot of virtual events and has not actually been engaging directly with voters. And I do think that we will start to see Biden and the Biden campaign doing that a little bit more, while still promoting the safety precautions and the gravity of COVID-19 as they have been doing.
I do expect, unfortunately, that there may be another Kenosha incident over the course of the next 2 months. And I think that it is going to be incumbent on Democrats, because we know exactly how Republicans are going to frame this. We know exactly how they're going to try and deliver lawlessness to the front steps of suburban women. But I think it's going to be incumbent on Democrats to give an alternative vision forward here, and to really define the values and justify the reasons for the protest while still condemning any form of violence or property destruction. The same white women that Donald Trump are trying to deliver chaos and lawlessness to the steps of are quite supportive of Black Lives Matter, overwhelmingly supportive of this movement. And I think that it is now incumbent on Democrats to speak to that and to remind those voters of why this is the big tent party, why diversity is our strength, and why Democrats have a better and more cohesive vision for the future of America.
We actually just released a poll about racism and racial injustice with NPR. And what we found is that there are stark differences between white Americans and people of color, specifically Black Americans, when it comes to issues of race and also with your own experiences. However, I think it's important to drill down within the audience of white people and acknowledge the fact that white college-educated voters and white non-college voters have very different views on the topic as well. And so I think Terrance is exactly right. When you're looking at suburban voters, college-educated white voters, they tend to be very favorable toward the Black Lives Matter movement. They tend to feel things like, you know, we need to do more to promote equality of Black Americans and people of color in this country. They tend to acknowledge that institutional racism exists in this country. And so I think, you know, it's, as you said, it's incumbent on the Democratic Party to remind them of that and to show that they are the party and that Joe Biden is the candidate that does have a better stance on racial issues and addressing the injustice in this country.